Hello, this is your maths. During guided practice, you're going to listen to me explain your task. When it says independent practice, you will complete the task on the sheet. So it's really important to watch this PowerPoint, and you can watch it as many times as you like so that you can fully understand the lesson input. So Lucy, this is your warm-up and your oral mental starter. I'd like you to use the column method to add up these four sums. So remember, this is your tens and this is your ones, and you always start with the lowest value. So 8 add 3 is 11, and I carry my 1 there. Then I 3 add 9, which is 12, add on my extra 1, and that gives me 13. So my full answer to 38 plus 93 is 131. Can you have a go at the four questions now, please? So our learning objective is to recognise tenths and hundredths. Okay, so A and B, they both represent one whole. There are 100 equal parts in our whole. And our question asks what fraction of each 100 square is shaded. Now you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 equal parts shaded in one row. So I know that there'll be another 10 equal parts shaded in my second row. So I have a total of 20 equal parts shaded out of a total of 100. By 20 hundredths when I'm looking at the individual square. I also have 2 tenths. I have one row of 10 and another row of 10. So 20 hundredths is actually also equal to 2 tenths. Now I'm wondering what you're thinking with question number B. Again, you know that the rows are of 10 equal parts. So you have 10, count with me, 20, 30, 40, 50. So there are 50 equal parts shaded out of a total of 100. Now, I wonder if you could tell me what that's also equivalent to if my denominator was 10. How many tenths do I have? You can see by the number of red lines that I have drawn. Yes, that's correct. I have 5 tenths. Well done, Lucy. Now go to your next slide. So this is now your independent practice, and you'll see these questions in your work pack or on Teams. If you're doing it on Teams, remember to look at the question and then go to your answer sheet so you can type in your answer. Good luck. So here again we have 100 square. So this is representing our hundredths. And we know that one row is a tenth and one square is a hundredth. Okay, so being asked what fraction of the whole does each represent? And I'm going to show you questions A, B, and C. So let's do question A together, first of all. So we're going to shade in 4 full rows. So 4 full rows is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we know that I have 4 lots of tenths. I have 4 tenths. But I also have 40 hundredths. I have 40 little squares shaded, but I also have 4 full rows. So I have 4 rows out of 10 rows, or I have 40 squares shaded out of 100 squares. Now let's look at B. They have 6 full columns. So this time I'm going to go down the column. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, I have 6 rows shaded out of the 10, or I have 60 equal squares shaded out of 100. What's important here is that we know that they are equal to one another. Okay, you can see I have 6 rows shaded out of a whole of 10 rows, but I also have 60 squares shaded out of a whole of 100. Now, if I then go on to question C, I'm going to have 13 squares. So I'm going to shade in 13 squares. Let's do this in a different colour. Let's do it in green. If I was to go along this way, I have a whole 10 squares there. And I'm going to shade in another 3. So I have 13 squares shaded out of 100. So now this answer is 13 as my numerator and out of the denominator of 100 equal parts. So I have 13 hundredths for question C, question B 6/10 or 60 hundredths, and question A 4/10, which is also equal to 40 hundredths. Now in your independent practice I'd like you to complete questions D and E. Good luck! So Lucy, we haven't got our 100 square here. So if you need to refer back to it, you can do. So we're going to look at question A. Okay, this one here. So that says 4/10 is equivalent to how many hundredths? Well, I know when I'm thinking about my 100 square, and if I shade in a full row, I have 10 hundredths, or one row shaded out of 10, so 1/10. Now, if I have 4/10, that is 4 rows out of 10 rows, or 40 squares out of 100 squares. So my answer is going to be 40 100ths. Now I wonder if you can do question B and C. Good luck! We're just going to talk through this one together, Lucy. So Dexter says 1 row is 1/10 and 1 column is 1/10. So know that's 1 row is 1/10 and 1 column is 1/10. So if I colour 1 row and 1 column on my 100 square, I will show 2/10. Is Dexter correct? Have a little think. And then can you explain your answer? So I know that because we have shaded 1 row out of 10 rows and 1 column out of 10 columns, altogether I have 1/10 and another 10th, which is 2/10. So Dexter is correct. So this one's going to be guided practice again. We're just going to talk through it, Lucy. So we're going to tick the 100 squares with 23 hundredths shaded. So we know that our 100th square has 100 equal parts. So it's 100 squares in that box. Okay, and if there's 23 hundredths, we know that we need a total of 23 boxes shaded. Now here we have 1 row of 10, another row of 10, so 2/10, which we know is also 20 hundredths and 3. So we have 23 hundredths here. So this one I can give a tick. This one again. Well, what's the same and what's different? I still have 2 rows of 10, so I have 2/10, but my 3 is separated. Does that still mean that is 23 hundredths? Yes, it does. So that again is 23 hundredths. Now again, looking at this one, I have 2 rows of 10, so 2/10, which again is also equal to 20 hundredths because I have 20 small squares shaded, and then I have my extra 3. So 20 add 3 equals 20 hundredths. Go to this one now. I have 1, 2, 3 separated from this row that we've got here, separated from this row that we've got here, and another 2. Now I bet if you counted all of the squares, you would realise that we have 23 hundredths. So 23 equal parts shaded out of 100. So that again is another example of 23 hundredths. Let's have now a look at this one. Now we can see that we have 4 columns of 5. Now let's count our 5 times table. So 5, 10, 15, 20. So you have 20 there. And then to the side here, separately, we have an extra 3. So we have 20 and 3. And we know that 20 and 3 is 23 hundredths, because we have 23 equal parts shaded out of 100 possible parts. So another example of 23 hundredths. Now let's have another look at this one here. So we've got 23 written out in front of us. Now, just to make sure that we have 23 hundredths, we need to count them, don't we? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Now, think to yourself, is this an example or a non-example of 23 100ths? Yes, you're correct. It is not an example of 23 hundredths. So we have this as an example and our other squares, but where they've put 23, they're given that shape with the squares. There's only 22 shaded out of 100, so that's not an example. So this is our last slide, Lucy, and so we're going to do guided practice on A and B, and then you're going to complete questions C and D independently. So we've got to complete the part-whole models. So here we've got a total of 23 hundredths. Now, just like our previous slide, it had 2 tenths or 20 hundredths shaded. But what do we need to fill out that extra part, do you think? Yes, you are correct. I need 3 100ths. Now, that is not going to be 3 tenths, because then that would be another 3 rows or 3 columns. So I need to make sure that it's 3 single squares represented on my square hundredth grid. If you need to look at that, you can do to help you. So it's 2 tenths and then an extra 3 squares to represent my 300ths. So I know the part 2 tenths and the part 300ths equals the whole of 23 hundredths. Now let's look at question B. We have here 47 hundredths as our whole. Now we've been given a part of that whole, but we need to work out what this missing part is. Now, we've already been given the 7 hundredths. So on our 100th grid, we would have 7 individual squares shaded out of a possible 100. But just like in our 23 hundredths, we had 2 tenths, which would also equal 20 hundredths. So I wonder if you know what would go in our missing part here. Yes, you're correct. It would be 4 tenths, or what would that be equivalent to? Yes, 40 hundredths. Now, can you have a go at your independent questions on your sheet, please, using the part-whole model and the method that I've just shown you? Good luck.